The Hartley Show is an entertainment program and does not own any of the copyrighted material featured in this episode. All copyrighted material featured will be used as fair use for the purposes of criticism, comment, news reporting, and/or research. Taki. Today on The Hartley Show, I'm going to be giving my comic book State of the Union address. Well, hey-ya. So DC Comics has a number of things going on right now, but the first thing I would like to address is Grant Morrison's Multiversity. Now, this book is taking place in the multiverse, obviously, Multiversity. But the most important thing about this is that prior to this, the multiverse kind of was a thing that we had a lot of questions about. And really, really interestingly in the world of Multiversity is this book completely ties itself back into the old pre-52 storyline, and that this storyline's completely connected to Final Crisis. The storyline starts off with Nixutowan, the monitor from the, well, he was basically the lead monitor from the Final Crisis storyline, and last we saw, Nixutowan did not remember he was a monitor, but he's kind of getting his memories back, and like I say, this storyline completely starts off where Final Crisis ended, right to the point of Captain Carrot even being around and talking about hanging out with all the Supermen at the end of Final Crisis. This book has been an absolute blast, and smart as all bejesus. Pax Americana. The concept behind Pax Americana is it's a sort of neat homage to Watchmen. Now, the original characters that the Watchmen characters were based off of were the characters from Charlton Comics, Blue Beetle, and all these sorts of guys. And the original characters are who are in this, but now they've been used to be more like the Watchmen. So this book is absolutely fantastic, and it does really, really unique things. It's also incredibly confusing. And one of the main things about this book is you want to read it over and over again because it makes more sense the more times you read it. It's confusing, but man, is it rewarding when you sort through it all. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. And one of the neatest things about this book is they bring back one of the Charlton Universe's first character, Yellow Jacket. We haven't seen him used in comics in probably decades at this point. An amazing read, and believe you me, read it over and over again. DC Comics also has this book going on right now called Infinite Crisis. Of course, there was an Infinite Crisis series back in the day. Now, this book is originally put out as a digital book once a week, although they just did a bit of a skip week thing, and they put it out, of course, as a physical copy as well. If you buy these physical copies, this coincides with a video game that's, I believe, is free to play, and these books, they come sealed because you can actually get some sort of free character or some sort of in-game additive through buying these. Now, the weird thing about Infinite Crisis is, to me, it feels like this is totally happening in the current DC universe. But for whatever reason, it's an unofficial book. And there are crossovers. There is a sense of a tie-in between this and Multiversity. I highly recommend this. On the weekly side, DC has 3 weekly books going on right now. Now, this is, again, another alternate future reality book, or another alternate reality. The concept behind the New 52 Future's End, and it takes place 5 years in the future. The main storyline follows Batman Beyond from a number of, I think maybe it's 20 years in the future. He comes back in time to save reality because it's being taken over by Brother Eye, but he shows up not as early as he wanted to, which would be the current continuity timeline, but he shows up 5 years later than the current timeline where things have already started to go a bit awry, and he's trying to save the DCU. Currently, the DCU in this storyline is involved in the aftermath of a war between Earth 2 and Earth. The world's kind of a darker, shadier place. It turns out a lot of the new Teen Titans are dead. Red Robin has gone into sort of hiding, and he's living a life as a bartender with a messed up leg. Firestorm, Ronnie Raymond, and Jason Rush aren't getting along anymore. Lots of really fun stuff going on here. You know, it's a little dark, but it's kind of what DC is doing nowadays. And they just spent a whole month covering the New 52 with this funky hollow foil cover. I'll see if you guys can you see that? It's doing the little shifty there of the covers. So every book this month had these cool dynamic hollow foil cover things. I don't know if hollow is the word for it, but these holographic, neat duotone things, and they all took place in this continuity. I actually really enjoyed this storyline, or this particular month, because it was a solid, cohesive storyline throughout the whole month, and it was a really refreshing, cool thing to see such a cohesive attempt at a whole month worth of storylines. The other weekly book DC has going on right now is Batman Eternal, and holy crap is this book fun and surprising. One of the key differences between this weekly book and the other weekly book is Batman Eternal is a little bit more artsy. They've taken more bold choices with artists. They aren't trying to adhere to a cohesive artistic style, which is gutsy and it seems to be paying off, as well as Gotham Academy. Now, I haven't read Gotham Academy. It's getting a lot of acclaim. I have read Arkham Manor. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So they're really doing some neat stuff. And of course, you can't talk about the Batman books without mentioning, at the very least, the new Batgirl book, which, although not a reboot of the book, is completely revamped Barbara Gordon style as Batgirl. She's wearing a more sort of realistic, modern interpretation of a Batgirl outfit. And that book has been selling like hotcakes. I think it's pretty much a sold out right across the board. It's receiving very mixed reviews. I personally thought it was fantastic and very, very refreshing. Although I do take a bit of a sort of an issue with her wearing Doc Marten boots. Those wouldn't really be terribly effective crime-fighting boots. Over at the Green Lantern books, we've got Godhead, a really fun storyline that brings the new gods into the world of the DC universe, or the current New 52. The new gods, High Father, they're looking for, what are you laughing at?
Godhead. God.
Oh, all right, Godhead, yeah, fair enough. Okay, I get the joke. Anyways, the concept behind this is the new gods are looking, as they've always been looking for, the life and the anti-life equation. It turns out that has something to do with the Green Lantern ring, specifically the White Lantern ring. This has been a really solid storyline. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. But sadly, the worst book in the Green Lantern universe right now is the actual Green Lantern book. It just keeps on missing the ball. Hal Jordan is constantly being written as a guy who needs assistance and who can't really handle things on his own and kind of flailing, and it's bugging me. So everything about this storyline's been great except the Green Lantern books. And last but not least, I thought I would just throw out a little mention to the lost episode of Batman 66. It turns out way back in the day, Harlan Ellis had written an episode of Batman, you know, the old TV show, Batman, that Batman, and it never got turned into a television show, so they've adapted it into the cool new Batman 66 comic. Well worth mentioning for you old school Batman fans. And of course, it's important to mention that all the while along, DC has their variant covers they do month per month. In this particular month, they've got an example of the Lego characters, or Lego DC dudes. Everything is awesome.
10 and 30. Go!
The new Lobo, what the hell's wrong with you, DC? New Avengers, the wonderful downfall of Tony Stark. Tooth and Claw, great stuff by Busiek and a great price. Pax Americana, Grant Morrison doing the weirdest, most awesome thing imaginable. Axis, started off like garbage, but it's going somewhere cool. Blue Rose, supreme, weird and awesome. The new Wonder Woman team sucks balls. Teen Titans, why did they just call her Lady Trump? A great art. Marvel 75th Anniversary Special, meh, but nostalgic. And Astro City is good times.
Geek win.
So meanwhile, over in the world of Marvel, their big storyline at the moment is Axis, which is turned into fun. The first issue was absolute garbage. But the basic concept behind Axis is sort of a follow-up on the very popular Superior Spider-Man. In Superior Spider-Man had been taken over by a bad guy, and he was doing all sorts of bad guy stuff. So the concept behind Axis is they found a way to swap out good guy and bad guy roles. The X-Men and the Avengers have a big fight with the Red Skull, who now possesses the mind powers of Charles Xavier. They fight him on Genosha, and in the process, he swaps the motivations of the villains and the heroes. All the heroes are now acting villainous, and all the villains are now acting heroic. The Hobgoblin miniseries, which is a hell lot of fun. We've got the original Hobgoblin, Roderick Kingsley, and he's going around teaching people how to be heroic, and he's leading little groups of little mini heroes. But of course, he's a bad guy at heart, and you're questioning his motives, even though his mind has been altered by the Red Skull. This is probably the best thing that's happening in Axis right now. The worst thing taking part in the Axis overall storyline right now is this horrible piece of crap. Axis Revolutions. Absolute garbage. If you want toilet paper, this isn't even worth your time. Just get some toilet paper. And then, of course, it's important to mention the Inhumans book at this point in time, or the Inhuman book, because right now it seems the way that Marvel is going is they're looking for a way to involve mutants without having mutants. So they're slowly grooming, and it seems to sort of be coinciding with where they're going with their cinematic universe, that the way they'll be able to use mutants in the cinematic universe, i.e. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, is this whole Kree Inhumans thing where it turns out that there's way more Kree-infused DNA in the world of humanity, and they're reacting with the Terrigen mist that Black Bolt has spread all over the world, creating a new wave of mutant-like Inhumans. Not a bad book, not a great book, so I've got nothing great to say about it, but nothing really bad to say about it. It's got nice art. At the very least, nice art. Meanwhile, over in the world of the Spider-Man books, continuing on from the ever-awesome Superior Spider-Man storyline, we now have Spiderverse, which has just been an absolute blast. The road to Spiderverse started off with the Edge of Spider-Verse storyline. Now, each one of these comics introduced an alternate reality Spider-Man that has then continued on to play a more solid role in the overall storyline. The basic concept behind Spider-Verse is these extra-dimensional beings that have continued on from basically the old, what the heck was that storyline called again? The storyline that introduced Morlun. Morlun being this being who goes after spider totems and he absorbs their strength and their essence. It turns out Morlun has a greater family that are all going after spider beings, and they're going from dimension to dimension, wiping out those spider beings. And now the spiders have sort of figured it out, and they're assembling their own teams to combat Morlun and his group of evil jerks going around killing the spider totems. This has spawned a new Spider-Woman series, which I haven't read yet, but I'll bet you is half decent because this whole storyline has been an absolute blast. And it's important to note, Spider-Ham has come back into the whole Marvel Universe because of this, and how do you not love Spider-Ham? They've been doing a great, great job with him. It also, of course, brought back Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl, who's sort of been languishing in limbo for a while now. Again, a fantastic read, and I can't recommend any book from Marvel more than this right now. So over in the world of Avengers, they've been doing this really neat storyline called In 6 Months, Time Runs Out. There's this whole thing that's been going on, and I've talked about this many times on the show, about how sort of time and the entire multiverse of the Marvel Universe has become destabilized. So right now, it's all hit the head, and so in Avengers, New Avengers, and Avengers World, they're all dealing with the 6 months later down the road, which strangely seems to be mirroring somewhat the DC Futures End storyline. It's not 5 years in the future, 6 months in the future. I do always find it interesting how DC and Marvel oftentimes sort of are going in the exact same direction, although just through different means. This has been a lot of fun. I'm really quite enjoying this, but I'm a huge fan of Hickman, and he's been planning the storyline for a long, long, long time. Now, of course, this is going to lead into the Secret Wars storyline coming up in the somewhat near future. Nobody exactly knows what's going on with it, but it seems like a giant, giant, huge, cool thing. Now, of course, Captain America is now the Falcon. The Falcon has taken up the mantle of Cap because Steve Rogers had his vitality drained, and so he needed someone else to pick up the mantle. And I must say, this was a really solid read. And of course, this also leads to a change in the Mighty Avengers. The Mighty Avengers is now Captain America and the Mighty Avengers. Also a solid read, and this book probably deserves a little bit more of a spotlight. It's been much, much better than it's been getting attention-wise or praise-wise. A solid book. I highly recommend it. Heck, it's got the Blue Marvel in it. Now, over in the world of Image, of course, we've got the reigning champion of Image books right now, Saga. This book is absolutely remarkable. Drawn by Fiona Staples, written by Brian K. Vaughan. I can't say enough awesomeness about this book. This book is so cool. Why are you listening to me right now? Go out and buy this. This is beyond good, and I will come and punch you in the junk if you don't buy this. Meanwhile, you've got Robert Kirkman's new book, Outcast. Of course, Robert Kirkman, the genius behind The Walking Dead, he's now got this new book called Outcast. I'm going to say Outcast a lot. And the concept behind Outcast is it features this dude who seems to have this amazing ability to rid people of demonic possessions. He has a life that sucks balls because he can see spirits and crap, and he doesn't even seem to really believe in his own abilities. This is a really fun book, and it's been doing really quite well for Robert Kirkman. Go figure. Meanwhile, we've got Real Heroes. It's the first book written and drawn by Brian Hitch. The concept behind Real Heroes is they've taken a bunch of actors into an alternate reality, and they're playing the roles of actual superheroes, not knowing what they're doing, dealing with a horribly destroyed world. As you can totally expect, Real Heroes is filled with beautiful, beautiful Brian Hitch art. Big, cool, sexy, cinematic site kind of things like this. This is what Brian Hitch is best known for, and I gotta say, for his writing debut, he's actually nailing it. We got a great new book here by the name of Copperhead by a great indie writer by the name of Jay Faerber. Faerber's been a real hit-and-miss writer, but man, Copperhead is great. This is a Wild West sci-fi style book. Fun, fun, fun. I highly recommend it. You've got Tooth and Claw. This is the new Kurt Busiek book, and holy crap is this book solid. It's a mere $2.99 for 48 pages. And check out this big, sexy, awesome cover. I was sold the second I opened up the book because they got one of these cool kind of, you know, there you go. A nice big double page spread with some actual, you know, text there, some prose. It actually feels like the first chapter in a picture book more so than a comic book for a moment. A really, really great read. And like I said, 48 pages for $2.99. I mean, how can you go wrong? And of course, it's all anthropomorphic animal style stuff. Really, really, really good stuff. Highly, highly, highly recommended. And then you've got the world of Warren Ellis stuff. Now, Trees is this fantastic book. It's blowing my mind. The basic concept behind Trees is aliens came here, they left behind these giant tree-like structures, and then they just left. Not much has happened, and it's all about how the world deals with the actual evidence of aliens that exist but aren't really doing much to affect us until the series starts off kind of. A great read with beautiful, beautiful art. And one of the cool things about it is when you open up the first page, the inside cover is actually part of the storyline, as is the back inside cover. Okay, maybe not so much that one, but they include more of the overall book into the storyline. And then you've got Warren Ellis's Supreme book, Supreme Blue Rose. Now, Supreme was the Rob Liefeld Superman ripoff book, and following along the lines of Alan Moore sort of shaking things up and going in a new direction, Warren Ellis shakes things up and goes in a completely insane direction with it. This doesn't feel like a Supreme book at all, other than in the most minor of ways. And this is really a really remarkable book. What he's doing is he's taking advantage of the concept that the universe rewrites itself constantly in the world of Supreme. And in this particular storyline, the universe has rewritten itself in a crazy, confusing manner, which is making for a really intelligent and fun but confusing read. And then an honorable non-image book indie mention too. The Grendel versus the Shadow. This is a 3-issue series. This is the 3rd issue of it right here. Each issue was worth $5.99. I think you got basically double the amount of pages, like a 44-page book. And of course, this is written and drawn by Supreme artist-creator Matt Wagner, creator of Grendel. This is just some great stuff. Very retro and awesome. Really, it's everything you'd want out of a Shadow meets Grendel storyline. And, you know, it's Matt Wagner, so it's awesome. So there you have it, my comic book State of the Union address. As always, thanks for watching. A giant thanks to Taz for letting us film here, and we'll see you next time.
Hey-ya!